right, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Making Monsters. I'm Taylor Dahl, and we have a very fun episode in store today. We are going to get to know Noah Sewell a little bit more. He's been playing so well the first 4 weeks of the season, filling in for TJ Edwards. So I'm super excited to get to know his story a little bit. The journey is really fun when it comes to just life, football, and obviously his brothers, who a lot of people know. A lot of them also, Penei Sewell, very familiar because he's in with the Detroit Lions here in the NFC North, but Nephi and Gabriel, both football players also. So I'm joined today by Gabe Sewell, the father of all of these athletes. And Gabe, I really appreciate your time.
It's all mine. Thank you for having me on.
Of course. So let's start a little bit about from the beginning of the journey. You came to in 2012, moved to Utah at that time. So just share a little bit about that choice. I know it had to be a little bit difficult to move the whole family to another place, but I think also at times I know you felt like you saw something in your sons in the football world that maybe they weren't getting those opportunities where you guys were. So share a little bit about that and that decision to move to Utah to continue that.
Having been a high school head coach where we were in American Samoa, I knew how hard it was to find opportunities for the players that were coming through our program at the time. And basically, it had to do much with, exposure and the ability to get in front of college coaches, especially after you send a film and they're interested. They used to ask if we could get them up there for an unofficial visit so they can confirm whether or not the measurables that were sent to them on paper matched the actual athletes. So considering at the time there were only 2 flights a week to and from the island, and to leave it to come to the mainland was very expensive, and there were really almost impossible, if not impossible, for anybody to get off that quick and come back and spend that kind of money just so a coach could look at them now. Mm-hmm. There were parents of certain players that were willing to do whatever it took to make that possible, but it wasn't without a lot of creative thinking and whatnot. So, and knowing that there are the hurdles and obstacles that existed from where we were at as they started playing football in 2010 when it first started for youth, and then when my oldest entered the high school ranks, they really showed that they had something. Couldn't quite describe what it is, but both athletically and the football IQ, and they were just all in from the very get-go. And as a dad, I knew that was my goal for them, was to get a college education paid for. But like almost every kid who plays football, the dream is to play at the highest level. So as parents, my wife and I wanted to do everything we possibly could to help put them in a position that they could make dreams come true. So, we found ourselves. I tried my hardest to tell my wife on it all, because based off of just the dreams of the boys. So our oldest is a girl, mm-hmm. and we were writing everything on this relocation for our sons. But my daughter too, I said, listen, we live in a part of the world where opportunities of any kind, no matter what field you decide to go in, are very few and very limited, if at all. So by going to the mainland, the school systems are much better, and then you're introduced to so many different things that you won't be exposed to or even introduced to living where we're at. And then you might find something new that strikes your interest. But regardless, whatever it is that you decide to pursue, the resources available to you in America are pretty much second to none.
Oh, yeah. And so chat a little bit, because you ended up moving to Utah. That was the choice. What led to the Utah relocation? Why that place specifically?
Well, at the time, my younger sister lived in Utah, and she at the time didn't have kids of her own yet, and she was always wanting to try to get other family members to live closer to her. So I said, listen, uh, we were familiar with Utah somewhat, having been there a couple of years prior, passing through, and the city of St. George at the time was a very small town, so to speak. It has grown exponentially since, but I thought it would have been the best transition into, you know, the big world of
Yeah.
America, where some of these towns and cities you could get lost in. There's so many other things to get involved in. It might sway you off the course in which we started on. So
Yeah.
that's kind of why we chose Utah.
That makes sense. Yeah, there's definitely some cities in the United States that would be quite the culture shock moving to, including Chicago. So that is one that I'm sure, I guess, easing into that rather than being thrown into that is probably the best way. But let's start a little bit, Gabe, about the high school career. You also coached for the high school that the boys ended up going to, and so just share a little bit about that, how that came about first, you getting a coaching job with them, but also just being able to experience that with your kids and go through that football world there.
So we first moved into St. George, Utah, which, like I said, was a smaller town, but it was only an hour and 45-minute drive north of Vegas. And at that time, my sister had where she lived was right next door to a high school. So we got here in the evening. First thing in the morning, took the kids to register for school. Then my next question after they were on their way to classes was, someone point me in the direction of the AD's office or the head football coach? And then I was taken to the head football coach, and he was just retiring, and he walked me down to the new head coach at his office, where who they hired, and introduced myself and kind of gave a little background and told them my interest to coach, and I'm willing to coach any level, any position. I've pretty much done it for a while and done both sides of the ball in most of the positions, and uh, then I told them about the sons I had that I was bringing with me. But at the time, I also have brought a nephew of mine uh, from the island as well, because he had all the ability and size to do something with it as well. And I think when I said I had sons, he might have been a little bit worried that I was just another dad trying to get on staff in hopes
Hmm.
to increase sons' playing time or help kind of create the narrative in which where they would play, how they would play, and how they've been used. But yeah, he basically hired me as a JV coach, which I started at the beginning of that first season. I was there, and then uh, kind of by the mid-season, I was coaching varsity ball. So um, I think that was based off my own ability to be a pretty good coach, and whatever they playing time they received, this was basically based off of their ability and what they earned, nothing to do with me.
Yeah, I
As
think
a
it.
matter of fact, my oldest son at the time was a little um, discouraged at first because he confident in his ability, knowing what he could he could do. He felt like for a while there into summer and whatnot, he was being overlooked. I said, son, you just can't assume they're gonna see you. You've got to do so. You're the new kid on the block. They don't know who you are. They haven't seen you play at any football at any level. Most of these kids they watch grow up within their youth program, so that they know who these kids are. You've got to go and out there and practice and do something that's gonna wow them. And we were kind of somewhat going through walkthroughs, and he was like playing at linebacker on scout team, and we were just in shorts and t-shirt, but the offensive line had bags as they were walking through. I said, if you want to do something that'll I guarantee you, make them open their eyes is the next time the pulling guard comes through the hole with his shield, I want you got to lay him out. And he did that, and the rest was history.
Yeah. That'll get some attention for sure. And that's what I think part of it you were mentioning to me a little bit earlier before we started recording this about just you didn't ever want it to seem like they were getting anything because you were dad. You wanted them to earn all of that, and you felt like they should have earned all of that. So obviously that got them all to some really good and high places with their football career. Let's talk a little bit more about Noah, because I know Bears fans are really excited of what they've been able to see this first 4 weeks with Noah. Even week 1, I was like, wow, this Noah looks really good out there. In our first podcast, I do kind of a post-game podcast where we recap some of the things that go on, and I immediately said, I feel like we need to be talking more about Noah Sewell right now because TJ Edwards not being there, and there was some concern, but I really feel like he stepped in and played really well. So let's chat a little bit about Noah in particular. I know he played running back and linebacker in his time in high school, and that's normal. We see the guys in high school play both sides of the ball, but share a little bit about that journey and kind of what he did playing both sides and what ended up leading him to picking that linebacker position at the next level.
There was one thing that I told him that we agreed on. I said, son, the higher you go, because coming out of high school, they didn't know what he was either because he was about 260. I told him, son, your body will eventually dictate what position you play.
Yeah.
And I can guarantee you, at 260, it won't be anywhere on the offense unless it's the offensive line. So, but he played as a sophomore. He played quarterback.
Okay.
He started at quarterback at 260. He had some just natural athletic ability. I mean, as big as he was, he still was as fast, if not faster, than most of the kids that were playing the skill position, and could throw the ball accurately, far on time, and he understood football a little bit better than most kids living in the football house, and also being able to play both sides of the ball and seeing what it looks like and understanding what everybody was doing, and by watching it from an opposite side of the ball. So, and again, he started basically on defense, but because he had a certain skill set, the head coaches at the time would have packages or have certain times of the game, and I think I was the running back coach at the time, so it was always hard. I would hear the murmurings and whatnot. I said, "Listen, the head coach tells me to put him in, I put him in. I don't. There's only one or two other times I'll put him in myself, and that's when we need a yard or two, because it usually took at least 3 to 4 guys to tackle, and he'd break so many tackles. And but coming into his senior year, we knew he was going to be a defensive player. He just had more of a knack on that side of the ball. Not to say that he did it offensively, but just looking at his body type, looking at what really stood out is that he would either find himself eating himself as a D tackle or a D lineman, or sitting up and then playing linebacker. So when he got to Oregon, he played linebacker. He was, I think Ben Johnson said, like a throwback linebacker, or a downhill player. But today's game is wide open, and you got to be able to cover. So,
oh yeah,
I don't think he was quite, I guess, body cup wise paired coming right out of college to fit that mold. But this off season, I think everybody who knows Noah, or even just Watson, seen the difference of the body type he came into in camp, and he's playing with right now, and it seemed to make a big difference in how quick he is to get in and out of breaks and to play side to side.
Hmm. Yeah, it's definitely something we've had a lot of conversations about in the last several years, but 5 years or so, especially when it comes to the different types of linebackers you are seeing. Because to your point, when you are having to drop back in coverage and do some of those things, a lot of times the body type's a little different, the athleticism's a little different. But side note was when you talked about he played quarterback for a little bit, was Panay did Panay block for him while he was quarterback in high school?
Yeah, Panay, and it was. And we were a run-first team then, and it was ridiculous what we were seeing happen in front of us, like a lot of times. And we would do our best, what do you call it, Ben Johnson impersonations back then to make it where, you know, we designed plays. The blocking scheme was to make Panay the focal point, and then you have a guy looking like Panay toting the ball behind him, made it even worse for our opponents.
Oh, I could
Um,
imagine.
yeah, we're a lot of QB power,
Oh yeah.
rather by the counter, whatever it may be. And then they thought it was a run trick pony, so we were able to get vertically, uh, play action, whatever. We were able to take advantage of that a lot as well. But yeah, his body type for most of his career, pretty much we knew it was just it would dictate what eventually. I said, listen, this is high school football.
Hmm.
Nobody get paid here. Like we just need to win by all means possible. When it gets to the next level, where the coaches, everybody getting paid big bucks, we'll let them worry about where he plays.
Yeah. How much of a motivation for all of the sons in general, but Noah watching what his brothers were able to do at each level, and how competitive were they in those times, but also at the same time probably pushing each other to be the best that they could also be.
Oh yeah, it's a competition when we're all together, no matter where we're at home, uh, maybe a Top Golf or wherever it was at. It was always a competition, always. Uh, Cleaning the kitchen after dinner, like whatever it was always a competition, and it's always for bragging rights.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a sibling life, but I could imagine a whole other level with that household. So let's talk a little bit. You talked, obviously, Panay going to Oregon. Then also, we see Noah also go to Oregon. In 2020, I know I was reading that he was the Pac 12 Freshman Defensive Player of the Year. And you were saying, maybe even at that point, they were just kind of figuring out that, he should be a linebacker. The body type maybe wasn't what it was, but you were seeing some stuff really early on at Oregon from Noah of, just that position and his playmaking ability. So tell us early on about that choice of going to Oregon, and then also just in general his college and how that went for him.
You know, because of the time we spent at Oregon, because of Panay, Noah created a relationship as well as we have with the coaching staff there and whatnot. And you know, it it he wanted at some point in time. I know they all wanted to play with each other in some way, shape, or form. But at the end of the day, I said you got to make the decision based off what's best for you. But in the end of the day, he thought Oregon was the place for him. Unfortunately, I believe he went through 4 DCs in 4 years.
Oh, wow.
So it was like the first 2 years, I thought he did pretty good with the coaching changes. So and he somewhat proved even at that weight that he could play linebacker. But we knew it would make a big difference if he just maybe shed a couple pounds and really put him in a better position to actually now even look. He'd probably even move somewhat better to where he looked like the prototypical linebacker that was now the position with the body type was transitioning into.
Oh, yeah. And that's what I mean. That many defensive coordinators definitely is not easy. We see the coordinator change every few years being difficult on players sometimes. So that is a lot. So if you move on and you go, and obviously he declared for the NFL draft in around the 2023 season. And so he was drafted in the fifth round by the Bears. That moment, share a little bit about that. You've already seen, these moments for your other sons and how that could look like and feel like. But Noah Sewell also getting drafted, watching another son get drafted, and also by a team who's kind of historically known for their linebacking position. I feel like that had to be a pretty cool moment for everyone.
Yeah, growing up, at least when I was very young, uh, I grew up watching. Matter of fact, I had on what you call the most oddest chance of meeting Walter Payton.
Oh, wow.
It was one of the Pro Bowls in Hawaii,
Mm-hmm.
and at the time, my grandmother was in the hospital at Queens Medical Center, and one of the security guards in passing to another security guard, I overheard they just brought Walter Payton in for X-rays, and they're down in the emergency room. So I went down to the emergency room, and I must have been like 9 years old or something like that, 9 or 10, and I was able to stand out there, and the guy, I watched the ambulance pull in. They took him in, and when he came out, he stood right there with us where the ambulance docked, and was able to just hear him talk and say hello and shook my hand. And
Wow.
so
Yep.
to be part of a storied franchise like Chicago, I'm not quite sure he fully understands the magnitude of it, but this is what the style of football he played would probably be better fit for that era.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With Mike Singletary and the
Yeah.
Refrigerator and all those guys, whereas everything was physical. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
a physical game.
Oh, yeah.
Today's football, it's not. I think the athletes are more freakish, but it was more physical back then, at least from what I remember.
Yeah, and that's definitely, we've had the conversation about how they've definitely shifted it to the they want points scored, so you can't touch the quarterback too much, and there's all these things that they've started taking away, certain tackles that these players can't have now that we've seen, and so it makes the job for the defensive players really difficult now, honestly, to be able to still be aggressive and physical, but not get penalties because you don't want to set your team back in that world. I want to talk to you, Gabe, a couple more questions before I let you go, but just about this offseason. And you mentioned about the in shape side of things for Noah and how that has factored into the start of this season. But share a little bit too about that, but then also just Dennis Allen, the change of style of defense. I do feel like it fits Noah a little bit better than what we did see with Eberflus also.
Well, just based off of what we've seen, and it probably fits him better now. Again, that's all. I'll leave those opinions to the guys that get paid big bucks, because this is just an opinion of basically another fan at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm happy that he tuned out this off season. He's even tuned me out. Like I had a lot of text messages gone unanswered, which was probably good, because the last thing he wanted to hear was what I had to say, but he about certain things. But when we've talked, he said, he mentioned how great T.J. Edwards and the veterans have been in helping him become more of a professional and that approach to that side of the game, that and how to take care of his body and how to prepare his body. And like, as I was seeing pictures being sent to me, I'm like, man, I see his body, transformations. And I was able to come the week of training camp when they played the Dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw him, like, man, you really trimmed up. It looks like professional athlete.
Yeah.
He joked too. He goes, I noticed, the biggest thing I noticed is that his eating habits. I got home and saw more of the healthy type of snacks that were around, even the regular stuff that was in the fridge. And I'm looking for something like very heavy to eat, but it doesn't not really healthy. Like, man, this. I'm glad you made a change, but I gotta have the DoorDash be something more filling than this.
I want to give a lot of credit to Noah because I feel like it seems very self motivated in a certain sense of that he knew things that he could change that could immediately impact some of the way. And you never want to see a player get injured. So we're not cheering that TJ Edwards
Yeah,
has been injured,
no,
but I
by
think
no
it's
means.
been a really good opportunity and fun for Noah to come in and have this chance to really show the work that he's put in this offseason.
Yeah, yeah. I think he understood that you know opportunities for the most part are earned, but we know this game and what can happen. So you got to remember when that opportunity presents itself, you better make sure you're ready.
Hmm.
Because if you're not, and if it shows in the field, you may not get another opportunity, or the opportunities may be few and far in between. Like, so, just make sure you're prepared. And like when the opportunity came, I think he was much better prepared.
Yes, I totally agree. I have to ask this one before I leave. So
Sure.
the banter, the trash talk, the back and forth between now having a son with the Lions and one with the Bears, how entertaining has that been?
It's always entertaining. I mean, it's always entertaining. And like people ask us when they play, every time they play twice a year, who are you rooting for? I said, I've had a pair of sons play each other, I think 4 times while in college. And my view back then still is the same view today. I could give a rat's about who wins the game. I'm just hoping they go out there and play the hardest and come out healthy as everybody else.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think that's the best way to go. And I think you can also, without saying you want somebody to win or lose, you can say you want to see your sons have good games. And obviously, the first 4 weeks
Yeah.
of this season, you've been able to see Noah do that. And Panay, one of the best offensive linemen in the NFL. So that has to be really fun to watch constantly because there's a lot of teams, including the Bears, that are very jealous that he is not on our roster. So that has to be super exciting to follow. But Gabe, I really appreciate your time. I know the journey, a lot of times we get so wrapped up in the football side of things that you forget that there's a lot
Um,
more to these guys and the players and how they get to the NFL and their story in general. So I appreciate you sharing a little bit of that with us.
no, it appreciation is all mine. Thank you. Thank Chicago and all the wonderful people that even run into us and then we start talking who help us navigate. That's a big city.
Oh, yeah.
That's a big city. Like, and especially when it's time to. Can you put us in direction to the best pizza?
Have people given you
or
some advice?
oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that's great. And I was able to actually meet T.J. Edwards' parents the last game we were in Chicago, and they're great people too. Just thanking them and their son for helping mine kind of figure out being a professional athlete side of it all because uh, they're all in competition. That everyone
Hmm.
can be gatekeepers of information that maybe are not as, but Noah always says, yeah, he's my guy. He's kind of taking me under his wing and kind of helping me navigate all this. And I said, well, that's good, son. That's good.
Oh, yeah.
Appreciate everybody. Thank you.
I love that. And I'm glad everybody has been kind to you and hopefully showed you to the good pizza spots in Chicago. And I know that bye week this week, so everybody hopefully is getting healthy because we'd really like to see, Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon and some of those guys back out there to help the back end of that defense a little bit. But I really appreciate your time, Gabe, and tell Noah we're all super excited and we're really proud of him, and we're glad he's a Bear.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.